Thank you very much, and welcome to tonight, which we are March, I believe, 7th council meeting, regular council meeting. Be it resolved that this regular meeting now be open at 6:32, and I need a pen. Sorry. Yeah. PM, moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that the agenda be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Again, any discussion on the agenda being approved? All in favor? Motion is carried. Do we have any pecuniary interest, nature thereof? Seeing none. We do have two delegation that's going to be presented to us this evening. We're going to start with the Cornwall Housing. So welcome, Lisa.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having us here this evening. I'm here tonight to talk to you about what the mandate and overall purpose and vision is for community housing in the City of Cornwall, as administered by the service manager, being the City of Cornwall for the city and the United Counties of SDNG. So what's going to happen is there's more content in my presentation than what I'm going to cover. So Nancy, are you writing things for me? Okay, so hopefully we can keep up and I'll be able to kind of like let you know where I'm going. So Cornwall SDNG Human Services actually has 3 divisions underneath it. There's our Ontario Works Division, our Children's Services Division, and our Housing Services Division. And again, these are all the consolidated programming that we look after as the service manager for the region. And Nancy, I'm going to take us to the next slide, next slide, next slide, this slide. So one of the things that we're trying to talk a little bit more about is kind of the history of social housing in the community and how we got to where we are. So it was essentially in 1999 that the province passed along the oversight and management of housing to the municipalities. And that's again where the City of Cornwall became the service manager for the region. As that happened over time, provincial and federal governments did somewhat change their funding relationship in terms of how they were supporting community housing. And right now, the bulk of the funding for housing in our region does fall on the municipalities, which you would see, of course, through our cost sharing agreement around housing in the region. Nancy, if we could go to the next one. Thank you. Great. Oh, one more. Sorry. Thank you so much. So the housing continuum is something we're starting to talk more about so that our partners in this work can kind of understand where municipalities are focusing. So essentially, housing flows along an idea that you should move through different stages of housing depending on where you are. And the first stopping point is emergency shelter system housing. So this is where you're thinking of folks going into warming centers or literally into overnight stay emergency shelters. And the idea is we don't want people staying there, right? Like emergency shelter is really meant to be seen as kind of like the emergency department of housing. It's really meant to be there to save lives, get people off the street, get them warm, but we really don't want people getting stuck in that section of the system. Which is why municipalities are choosing to focus on more the assisted and affordable levels of housing. So this is where we're doing things like rent geared to income housing, affordable housing, other creative home ownership opportunities, which I know my colleague from Habitat for Humanity is going to speak to after I'm done, and really is where the community housing portfolio fits. What we're really trying to do as a municipality is we really firmly believe in housing first. If we can get people housed, then we can wrap around them and address bigger issues like addiction and mental health, and start to move them out of the emergency shelter system or out out of, like essentially couch surfing on the street with no place to stay, or even tent city facilities as well. At the top end of the spectrum is what we would call market, which is where we're looking at rental housing and home ownership. And that's where we see a lot of the private market rental housing, but we do also do some work in home ownership. And again, that's a partnership that we have with Habitat, where we provide down payments for about one family every year to be able to move into a Habitat home. Next slide, thank you. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but essentially the core idea is that the definition of affordability means different things to different people. So there's different definitions of how you can say, is this affordable or not affordable? The real marker of true affordability would be the threshold that Canada Mortgage and Housing sets that says you shouldn't be spending more than 30% of your income on housing. And that's where we do a lot of work around rent geared to income housing, where tenants are paying about that 30% threshold. But the other measures of affordability you might see is something literally called affordable housing. And to define that, there's actually a measurement that Canada Mortgage and Housing uses called average median rent, AMR. And what happens with average median rent is essentially they scan the private market and they say, okay, if this is kind of where all the rents are, this is where people should be falling in the middle to make it affordable. So it's not in any way consideration of incomes or what people can actually afford. It's almost like a measure of like what the market can bear. Next slide, please. So the reason why we focus on housing first so much is, frankly, it just makes sense. When you look at the cost of a shelter bed, the average cost of a shelter is almost $1,900 per month per bed. So it's pretty expensive. Whereas if you look at what it takes to build social housing, we're looking at like $200 per month per unit. So really, it's the most affordable way to actually address the issues of housing and homelessness. And again, this idea, if we can get someone permanently housed, there's a lot of work we can do to actually help someone stabilize and maybe even move through the other phases of the housing continuum. Next slide, please. So housing services, just to give you a bit of an overview, is basically broken into two halves. So there's our housing program side, which is basically our provincially funded programs, things like homelessness prevention program, rent supplements, COCHI, OFI, all acronyms. There's a lot of acronyms in housing work. It's great. So essentially, these are all our provincially funded programs. And in the other half of our work is the actual direct provision of housing. So at this point, we have 1,131 units in the community that are administered by the former Cornwall and Area Housing Corporation that are deemed true rent geared to income or affordable housing. But we do partner with other housing providers in the area. So when we actually take all those numbers together, we're providing about 1,930 units of housing throughout the city of Cornwall and SDNG. I'm going to pass through this next slide and the next slide. And we'll stop here for a minute. So people also often ask us, like, what is the need for housing in the community? So we manage the centralized wait list. This is where folks would apply to be able to access rent geared to income housing. Our numbers as of September of 2022 showed us sitting at around like 400-ish families. Our greatest need is actually in what we would call single non-senior housing. So this is individuals who might be on their own or in a couple, really only need a one-bedroom apartment. There's not a lot of affordable one-bedroom apartments. Our shortest wait time is for seniors, and our second shortest is for families. So these numbers are fluctuating. I can already tell you we're well over 500 now, and just in the recent months. So we're seeing, probably post-COVID and the pressures people are feeling economically, that those numbers are starting to go up. Next slide, and we'll go through the next slide as well. And we'll go through the next slide as well. And let's stop on one more. Sorry, Nancy. And one more, and I think we're there. Yeah, so I did mention the homelessness prevention program that we oversee for the provincial government. This actually provides essentially emergency housing to individuals. So we don't have an emergency shelter in this area. So some of the things we're doing to help alleviate that pressure is partnering with domiciliary hostels. This is where we would take someone who potentially could be homeless. We move them into a domiciliary. They get bed, food, life skill supports, and it helps to stabilize them. The other program that we have is called our crisis bed program. And this allows emergency bed stays of up to 5 days, but you can only access that once every 6 months. So it's really like, really for people if they're in like a really immediate crisis, but again, doesn't provide long-term emergency shelter housing. So if we could go to the next slide, Nancy. One of the things we're actively involved in is creating a by name list. So the idea of a by name list is that we would, through like an enumeration process, identify all the residents in our area who are homeless, identify, are they chronically homeless, meaning they've been in that condition for a while, or is it episodic? They just had like a one-time thing that's kind of put them into homelessness. And the idea behind this is if we can get to know the individuals who are facing this issue, we get to know their like pressures, situations they may be dealing with, and we can start to support them. And to support this work, we've actually put a team of social workers into place that are there to help support people on the by name list to keep them stabilized as much as we can while they're homeless, with the goal of moving them into long-term housing. And I can share that we've had a very hard to serve chronically homeless person just get housed through this work. So again, it can work, but it takes a while to get it established. Some of the other things we are looking at doing is looking at things like how do we tie the by name list individuals to our centralized wait list and create a priority to move them into housing faster. So that's work that you're probably going to be hearing about as we move forward in the next coming months. So we do have a 10-year plan that we have to provide to the province of Ontario. And basically that 10-year plan identifies what are the goals and objectives we want to achieve in the region over the next 10 years. So essentially it's available on our website, and we do come out to council once a year and just to update everybody on where that's at. So usually at county council and city council. Next slide. The other thing that we're actively working on is our housing revitalization plan. So in 2022, we did an extensive research, went out into the community to identify what we needed to build, and then COVID hit. So we know that this plan needs to be updated. So one of the goals and objectives we have set for this year is to get that updated so that we can start to plan future housing developments according to what the need is in our community. And next slide. So this is just a quick overview of our coming developments. Right now, the one you probably would see the most is 9th and McConnell. So that's about 70% complete at this point. They're actually putting tile down and flooring. So when you go into it, it now actually looks like an actual building as opposed to just drywall and wood studding. So it's pretty exciting. And just again, particular of interest to folks maybe in this room is we are starting to actively build out in the counties, and our Morrisburg build will be also going through the design process and getting ready for construction in the coming months. And next slide, and next slide. So part of the reason why I'm here tonight is we've actually struck a collaborative of the city of Cornwall and all our United Counties to come together to look at issues around housing and homelessness. And CAO Calder does sit on that committee with us. It's meant to give insight and input into what we're doing so that we can collaboratively approach this issue and look at solutions that work not just for the city, but our county partners as well, and looking at really coming together to how we move forward on these issues. So that's kind of the oversight role of the collaborative in terms of the work, but our most recent activity has been looking at where there's vacant municipally serviced land in the region and making our county partners aware that, we're looking to build, we're looking for partnerships that could even be through private developers and agreements that we might come up with them. So this presentation is meant to kind of give you an oversight of where we're going. We're going to be reviewing that list in April and May, and there's a chance that you may see myself and Melissa Morgan, our GM, back here to ask you for some land, if there's something in your area. So again, in alignment also with the work that Habitat's doing, we're trying to work with them as well to figure out how we can do this collaboratively. But essentially, that's housing in a nutshell. So any questions?
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yeah, no, it's I think in the last few years, in regards to rent, in regards to inflation, everything involved, you get many landlords that have they're basically looking at finance. It's a financing issue where they're trying to make money, and whenever they get to the point where I have one individual right now that's selling his unit because it's not right now, he can't raise his rent and it's just not profitable. So it's the poor person that was housed in that unit that's kind of being thrown and potentially needing the services of so it's a very unfortunate situation, and I'm sure if there's any of the members of council that would have questions, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Dench.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Lisa. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So I just want to thank you for the work you do. I know that some of the recent changes, well, I guess it's about a year now, that came down, handed down by the province, has created a lot of extra work for you guys. Lisa, I sit on Morningside with Councillor Shane as well, and we just had an end of mortgage agreement that we're working out the new one, but like I say, Lisa and team have been working hard just to understand all the new regulations that are going on amongst all the other hundreds of different things that they do. So I just want to thank you for that. And one question I did have though is your thoughts. You're saying that you're seeing an uptick in the amount of more young single. Is that due to like the state of the economy primarily, or is that, you know, foster people coming out of foster?
Right.
What's that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The single non-senior group has traditionally been underserved by community housing across the province. So it's a little bit of funding pockets that were originally available, and work we originally did was better suited to families and seniors, because we felt that's where the pressure was. And then what's happened is as family composition has shifted, as kids have aged out, or maybe we're just seeing that that's the pressure. And it's just that there's not a lot of community housing built to serve that need. Yeah.
Any other councillor, Vajali?
Lisa, just thank you for coming out tonight. A question for you about the Mayor's Task Force on Housing. It was, I had the pleasure of being on a few of those calls in the last couple of years, and haven't seen, kind of looking at the status of where that might sit, because there hasn't been any recent meetings on that. It was a really nice kind of working group, kind of looking at outside the box ideas to tackle this issue that's obviously not limited to our region, but it's a cross province, across Canada actually problem. So did you have any updates on where the Mayor's Task Force on Housing stand?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the task force has now moved into basically implementation. So there's an internal committee now that's looking at those recommendations and how do we move things forward in the city of Cornwall. One of the slides I kind of passed over, so was the slide before this, where it talks about the local housing plans that have been developed. So the Mayor's Task Force and the United Way has been actively involved in building housing plans for the other United County areas. What we've basically done is we've taken those 4 groups of plans, including the task force report, reviewed all of them, looked at what the priorities are, and now it's falling under the Home Collaborative. So really what we did was we said, what do all these areas need? Okay, now how do we collaboratively work on it together? So the task force itself isn't in place, but the implementation phase has now begun.
Any other questions? Seeing none. So as far as you mentioned partnership, so our developer, so we have, we're not potentially, the draft plan has been put it into one of our communities. They are looking at different density, so that, and one aspect would be to build. Now, how does that work in a private developer working with you guys, or at least the township, to align them, maybe to have discussions, and what's the advantage and disadvantage of a developer maybe talking to that aspect of housing? So maybe can you elaborate on that?
To answer your question, Mr. Mayor. So what we've done different things for different areas. So what the planning teams or the staff have been able to do in the other townships is to say to us, this is being built in our area. They're interested in building something affordable, or the staff have said, would you consider building something affordable? And then what we do is we start to have exploratory meetings just to see what their thoughts are, what their plans are, what's possible. We start to talk about how we can maybe help coach and guide them through the CMHC funding application to get rental construction funding and things like that, and discuss that. And there's other opportunities we have to be able to subsidize private market units through our rent supplement program. So that's something we actively talk about, to say if we're able to get units that would be able to meet this level of rent, that might be something we could do.
And then one last question, if we're looking, so I know over at the East End, La Casa offers some shelter first, but then we have the Morningside.
Mhm.
Come into Finch, we have the Villa. If you go up north to Chrysler, which right now we're very much lacking, we've got some that will try to get on the one in Finch, but often we lose it. They go to Prescott Russell, and they end up having to leave their own community that they've lived in their whole life to basically get affordable housing in. So where does that stand as far as ourselves? Would it be to be looking at acquiring a piece of land and then working with you guys, or what's our avenues that we could take to make sure that we're building and maintaining the people in our township?
So in response to you, Mr. Mayor, that's probably going to be the second phase of the presentation when we come back in the, more the summertime, to say, we've looked at what the vacant land might be in your area. We think this might be of interest. And if there is a parcel we think would work, what we're essentially going to ask is the council to basically protect it and to say, let's set this aside for future housing development. And we've even triaged like the vacant parcels with the support of Peter Young at the counties to say, here's like something we could do in 3 years, 5, maybe 7 to 10. And then what we will be doing is, as we look at those parcels of land, is start to map out what we could actually build on them, and then start to look at how do we get funding to be able to support that.
Thank you. Well, nice seeing you again. And if I don't see any other question, we will move on to leave. It's Brecken. Am I saying that correctly? Perfect. Thanks. Thank you, Lisa. So Brecken is with the Cornwall Habitat for Humanity, and welcome to North Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's been a while since I've been here. I don't think I've seen anybody here before. So if we can have up my not nearly as informative slide deck. Perfect. So yes, thank you all so much for having me. My name is Brecken Cares, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for Habitat for Humanity, Cornwall and the Counties. Next slide, please. So Habitat for Humanity, Cornwall and the Counties has been working with our community and our partner families since 1999 to build affordable homes for low-income working families. We work to break the cycle of poverty that can so very easily affect multiple generations. What makes us different from a bank or a mortgage broker is our ability to offer these families a no-interest mortgage. We also do not require a down payment. Partnership is extremely important, perhaps the most important part of what we do with our partner families. We service the majority of SDNG, Cornwall, and Akwesasne. Our service area is denoted by postal codes as divided by Habitat Canada, and we are very lucky to have fantastic working relationships with our surrounding affiliates. We work hard to raise funds to be able to keep our home build program building. We operate our restore at 1400 Vincent Massey Drive, yes, that is a plug, up in Cornwall, which helps to generate funds to cover off our administration. And this also helps with landfill diversion and offers a cost-effective shopping option for our community. To date, we have built 17 homes locally. These homes are integral to building strength, stability, and self-reliance. We know there are numerous avenues to locally address the national housing crisis. Forming partnerships and engaging the community at large, this includes working with townships like North Stormont, to look at suitable available land to build affordable housing options. The housing continuum is a complex concept, as we've heard, and Habitat is proud to be a part of it. Starting at homelessness and moving through to market home ownership, not every person will have that same experience. Keeping in mind the housing first principles and we have already heard about, we see the benefits of safe, stable housing in the long term for the greater community and associated social services. All language aside, the concept of home is universal. It has been agreed upon at an international level that housing is a basic human right, and it is our humanity and our hearts that will make our Habitat houses into homes. I want to start by outlining our mortgage model and the long-term relationship that comes with it. Our partner families must be ready for home ownership. Home ownership, such a seemingly simple concept that means so much. So let's unpack what that is when it comes to Habitat for Humanity. We start with qualification. For a traditional mortgage, you would work with your bank or your broker, and you must provide various forms of documentation related to income, debt, credit, etc. For a Habitat mortgage, you must also provide that information, but you need to take a few extra steps with us. I didn't have to tell my mortgage broker why I needed a new house, but with Habitat, we need to see a demonstrated need. That need can be a variety of elements: overcrowding, safety, affordability, the list goes on. And as we have alluded to, our partner families must be considered low income. We determine this by using the low income threshold as set out by Statistics Canada, and this varies from year to year. This all takes into account the number of people in the household and the value of the earned income coming into the home. Once we have evaluated all of these elements, we conduct a series of interviews, and we want to see why you need to partner with Habitat for Humanity. Through these initial stages, we must see a willingness to partner from any potential family. When a partner family is selected to work with us, they dedicate 500 hours of volunteer time with our organization. This willingness to partner is paramount. Can I say that again? Super important. As a potential partner family goes through selection and home buying process, they are expected to work within our partnership agreement, which includes a comprehensive code of conduct. And adherence to this is what maintains the ability to purchase a Habitat home. Appropriate conduct and behavior builds upon the values of Habitat Cornwall and Habitat Canada: trust and respect, accountability and dependability, communication and collaboration, and fairness and flexibility. All of this is fundamental to the activity and reputation of Habitat Cornwall and our partner families. Upon completion of our home build, a local real estate appraiser, Enns McEachran, Payson, Maloney and Associates, a long-standing fantastic relationship, evaluates the home at fair market value. This becomes the selling price to our partner families. The mortgage is held by Habitat Cornwall and amortized for 20 to 30 years, depending on a number of factors. Mortgage payments are geared to a family's income and is never more than 30% of the household income. Where have we heard that number before? We will never charge a family more than what a traditional mortgage would be. Mortgage payments are reevaluated on an annually in line with tax time, but partner families also have the responsibility of disclosing any changes to us throughout the year. Again, this goes back to the honesty that is so important within our mortgages. All of these mortgage payments that I've just told you about are reinvested in our home build program, meaning that an investment today has a positive impact for the next 20 to 30 years through the mortgage. And throughout our 24-year history, we have had 2 partner families pay off their mortgages. Within the next 4 years, we will have 2 other local low-income families pay off their mortgages. And it's worth noting that both of those homes in North Dundas and South Stormont were built on land generously donated by those townships, respectively. I want to make an extremely important point here. The affordability of a Habitat home is not the purchase price. It is, in fact, the mortgage model. Knowing that every dollar you have paid into your mortgage is paying down your principal and property taxes, of course, is a wonderful feeling. Partner families are able to effectively and responsibly build equity and stability. As previously mentioned, our partner families purchased the completed home at fair market value. Now, nationally and locally, we have seen home prices rising year over year. According to the Cornwall Real Estate Board, the average price of homes locally was up 17.4% in 2022 over 21. While it is expected that those prices will cool with rising interest rates, fair market value is still comparatively high. The increased fair market value, bidding wars, and competition all make it extremely, extremely difficult to become a first-time home buyer. And that's not even taking the need for a down payment into consideration. By not requiring a down payment from our partner families, we are further contributing to the affordability of the mortgage. At this point, we have seen 7 interest rate hikes in 2022, another in January, and at least 2 or 3 more are predicted throughout the rest of this year. Not having to worry about renewing or refinancing with uncertain rates allows Habitat homeowners to focus on the other important parts of their lives. What it all comes down to is that we know there's an affordability crisis and housing shortage globally, and we are seeing it here locally every single day. But with our homeownership program and home build program, we are able to build mutually respectful relationships, which can lead to positive outcomes, one partner family at a time. Next slide, please. At Habitat, we are not custom home builders. We build safe, decent, affordable homes for local low-income families. It's that simple. We build based on the needs of a partner family, not a wish list. Those needs can include accessibility features and number of bedrooms according to children and family. Building homes is an expensive business, and the cost to build has increased considerably. For example, floor joists and roof trusses in 2019 cost approximately $6,000. In 2022, $18,000. Building costs and supply chain challenges are anticipated to continue to impact all of our local construction. Habitat homes are built to all codes and standards required by any builder within the province of Ontario. Simply put, that is our minimum standard. We are also extremely proud of the fact that our projects exceed National Energy Code for builders' energy consumption and greenhouse gas emission standards. Say that 5 times fast. This means not only do our families have an affordable mortgage, but an affordable home to operate afterwards. Partnering with local townships as well as other levels of government make it possible to turn previously vacant land into safe, affordable housing that generates residential taxes, goodwill, and a brighter future for a local family. We are all keenly aware of the lack of affordable housing and available housing stock for purchase or for rent. Your support of Habitat projects makes it possible for us to all be a part of the solution of the bigger picture for building stronger communities. Next slide, please. Oh, one back, sorry. There we go. In 2012, we were able to build a safe, affordable home in Moose Creek. Our partner family, Penny Grabs and her 4 children, are thriving in this home that was built on land generously donated by your predecessors. In Penny's own words, "My house has given me the opportunity to teach my kids that hard work pays off. My oldest daughter, Trinity, has successfully completed her PSW certification and is working with me at the Maxville Manor. Owning a Habitat home for the past 10 years has proven to be a humongous financial benefit, especially now with huge market rents and rising interest rates. My kids and I are absolutely grateful to Habitat. I don't know where we would be if we didn't have our home here in Moose Creek. It has given me more independence and confidence in myself and the opportunity to raise my kids in the town I was raised in." Of the builds that we have completed to date, 6 of our partner families have moved from local social housing. That means not only did those 6 families get into better situations, but it also opened up much needed space for 6 other families and their networks. And we just heard there's more than 500 people on those lists. And who knows how much further that impact has truly gone. We are extremely grateful for our relationship with the City of Cornwall and for being part of their housing continuum. This includes down payment assistance through the Ontario Priority Housing Initiative, which sees our eligible partner families receive $25,000 to reduce the purchase price of their new home. Like many social services, we have seen an increased demand for our supports. So far in 2023, 25% of the pre-applications for home ownership that we have received have actually been from Moose Creek families, and that is without any active recruitment. Obviously, there is a need and a demand for safe, affordable housing here in North Stormont. Local available surplus land is a key to finding a part of that solution. Next slide, please. We are proud that our projects help to enhance economic growth and prosperity while improving the quality of life for within the community. We partner with local groups and businesses on a number of levels, from financial donations and to contributions of materials and skilled labor. In 2018, Habitat Cornwall realigned our build program timelines and processes. We now follow suitable donated land. This allows us to reduce our overall costs while helping us build partnerships with active participants. Previously, we were only able to accept service land by donation. However, after extensive internal and external discussions, our board agreed to accept unserviced land. Our research and discussions proved that the cost of installing services, whether it be well, septic, or both, can be more efficient than waiting for or having to purchase service land. Unserviced land also recognizes the realities of our largely rural population. Wells and septic systems are simply a fact of life for so many of us. I've always lived on a well and septic. All of this helps us reach our goal of building more local affordable homes. This is what we have done as we prepare for our upcoming Maxville project. The Township of North Glengarry has donated a service building lot in Maxville, which will accommodate our first ever semi-detached home. Next year, we will be building in Green Valley on land donated by South Glengarry, and our plan is to return to Green Valley again in 2027 to build on another township donated lot. But as you can see here on our 10-year build calendar, there are 4 more years that have empty land and need land. This council's current mandate will end in 2026. But if you are able to evaluate your available land inventory, vacant land inventory, we would relish the opportunity to work together again. And that could mean that affordable home ownership and partnership could be a part of your lasting legacy. Last slide, please. So let me leave you with a quick recap. Habitat for Humanity families are happier, healthier, and more financially secure after moving into their safe, affordable homes. 65% report an improvement in children's confidence, and 61% see an increase in activity participation. 23% of parents go back to school, and 34% of parents get better paying jobs. Food bank use decreases, and overall health improves. And above all, 89% say their family lives are improved. As discussed, partner families must meet low income measures, have a need, have earned income, and be willing to partner with us to dedicate 500 hours of volunteer service to the organization. But remember, all of that starts with you, with your consideration of available building lots. And I certainly hope that you will keep us and local low income working families in mind. I will leave you with the words of Penny Grabs, our Moose Creek partner family. Building another home in North Stormont will give another family a chance to stay in their hometown, to raise their family without the financial burden of owning a new home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Becky. So I'll take questions or comments from the members of council. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Densham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Brecken, for your presentation, the work you do. I actually missed the fact that the Restore store is no longer in Bonneville. It's now in Cornwall, so it's a bit more of a trek
Yes.
to do that. And it's great to see the fact that you align your work together with Cornwall Housing, and as you said, continuity there is so important. You're looking at land. It sounds like there's a decision in there not to buy houses that exist and renovate. Can you talk a little bit about what's around that? Because we from time to time have tax sales that come up and those types of things. They're not, you don't view them as opportunities?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't have the resources to operate a renovation program, unfortunately. Some of the larger habitats across Canada do offer those services, and they work exactly through tax sales, through bank foreclosures. There's a variety of programs there, and they will go in, retrofit the home, make it, safe, obviously up to code. And then through that, the partner family works, dedicating their 500 hours and all of that, going through the homeowner education modules. But like I said, we are a very small affiliate. Habitat Canada actually breaks all of the affiliates, the 52 affiliates in Canada, down into 4 categories. And we are at the top end of being small. So we unfortunately don't have those resources. However, we have had those discussions in the past, and I've been with Habitat for 6 years. Just before I came on board, we were having that discussion with a local organization, and we really didn't have the resources then, but that's not saying that we won't in the future, especially if we have the potential to reach some other funding. We have CMHC agreements as well. Obviously, I didn't want to dive into all of that, but there are national agreements with CMHC where we actually receive, and it varies from year to year, on average $50,000 a door, which really is a huge offset for us. And we are extremely, extremely grateful for that relationship. And if you heard the national announcement yesterday, day before, they've just re-solidified that agreement with CMHC.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other question? See none. Thank you for your, and I'm sure if any member of council has additional question, you can go through Craig, and I'm sure Craig has the coordinates for both Lisa and Brecken. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to the adoption of our previous minutes. Be it resolved that the following minutes be approved as presented. The zoning amendment public meeting of February 21st, 2023, as well as the regular meeting of 2023.
Zoning and the regular meeting. Zoning amendment meeting and then regular meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that was moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that the following monthly report be received: the arena report, CAO, finance, fire, bylaw enforcement, building, and public works. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any discussions on the reports? forward. I think it's well laid out for us. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved, the council receives these reports for the Township of North Stormont's drinking water system for Chrysler, Moose Creek, and Finch. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. Any comments or discussion? It is a big report, I gotta say, and from seeing the compliant or non-compliances, so I like to see basically we're well served. Again, when we read it, we're not expert in that field, so it does get tedious trying to understand. So do we not have, I think last time we passed it, did we not have a member of Aqua present?
I believe they give their water, wastewater report for me. And if there's a question you want to bring up with the drinking water report.
We'll have the opportunity
you have
to.
the op-
Perfect. And do we have a anticipated time as to when that takes place?
April, maybe. We'll get an April meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor Densham.
No, I just noticed, and I think we noticed the salt content or sodium content in Finch was high, especially in Finch, also high in Moose Creek, but high in so what's the process there? We send out letter to the residents?
Yeah, it was, I believe last year, we sent out notices to all the residents of this. It's not, it's the same, it's been the same for a lot of years. I mean, it's just the water quality out there, that has sodium in it. So it's a repetitious of giving notice by the regulation to residents. And we post these on our website and hard copy of the desk that any taxpayer or resident wants to go through them.
Is there anything done for new residents when they move in? Or does it just come annually at the same time?
I believe it's just annually. I don't know any, well, I don't really have control over when new residents come in.
Right.
Uh,
Except I guess they would be new on the tax roll, would they not? But if they moved on, they're.
Through the chair, it takes some time to get on the tax roll, but
it does say.
yeah, and this is in conjunction or through the medical officer of health office. Correct? The notifications come through the medical officer of health or in collaboration with.
with the American Water, they provide the notice notification layout and we publish that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how big is a bad number, if you will, but I guess if it's above 20, we're required to send out notification. So, okay. I'm just wondering, because it may be a bit of a loophole there for some new residents.
And just a follow up in terms of if there's a trend in the salt, if it's increasing or not. Like if they have comments on the source of it, if the source of it is related to the ground or the soil of the rock, or if it's related to salt practices, for example. I'd be curious about, because I think Moose Creek didn't previously, I never saw Moose Creek having a salt issue, and it did show on the report that they do now have a not as high as Finch, but still higher sodium, elevated to the point it requires notice.
Well, I discussed with John, I believe reached the constant over.
Yeah.
Well, built back in the 70s. And the regulations, sometimes what happens, regulations, the level of of salt content goes down, as in the minimum amount you have to publicize. It actually makes
Yeah.
publicized.
More, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because salt's something, I know we were talking just yesterday about how insurance is driving more salt application.
Yeah.
But eventually there gets to be a point if there's too much, and not necessarily from a municipal road, it could be any source. It is going to accumulate in groundwater and in soil, so. I'd want to make sure that it's not an increasing trend, that's all, for
Okay.
salt.
we can mark that down and have Don prepared for
Yeah,
that question.
yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
And with regards to those kind of questions, if we can highlight them, keep them and get that answered from Aqua when we do meet. So I presume, I think it was January of last year, I think that is that when the letters were mailed out and
I believe so.
it was earlier. So now, does the level is constant or stays the same, but it doesn't, the need of reissuing more letters does not have to happen? Or is it because now we've lowered we're below the regulated amount? Is that?
I believe the salt content is the same, but the regulation to actually publicize has been reduced. So.
Good. So any other discussions in regard to seeing none? All in favor of the receiving the report? Motion is carried. Moving on to county appointment of Mr. Palmer Douglas as North Stormont's representative on the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry's accessibility committee. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor Bajelli. Any discussion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Denton.
Just a quick point of order. I know 7.2 talks about the committee appointment, and then 8.1 actually passes a bylaw. We missed 7.2. Are we catching up on that now, or is it necessary?
Through the chair, I just mixed up the motions and I'd already taken care of the pre-signatures, so I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the meeting. So
Okay,
that was my error, just in the numeric or in the motions.
no worries. So are we voting on 7.2 right now or on 8.1?
They're going 7.2.
7.2, okay, great. No, I strong support. Palmer, as was in the report, Palmer helped with our accessibility plan. I know he's doing a lot of this type of work on a consulting basis. He's a member of our community and very active, and I can't support this enough. He's a really good guy, and I'd love to see him continue to contribute to our community in this way.
And I will second that. Mr. Deputy Mayor, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Anyone against? Motion is carried. I didn't see the. Be it resolved that bylaw 19-2023 being a bylaw to appoint members to a committee of the township of North Stormont be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 7th day of March 2023. So that refers to.
Through the chair, this is the bylaw that's amending the appointment bylaw to appoint Palmer Douglas
Palmer.
as a public delegate.
That was moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor Bajelli. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that council approves the new fire salary scale, the addition of COLA according to the township HR policy 12-2022, which will be effective January 1st, 2024, and the payment schedule of quarterly in lieu of twice yearly. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor Bajelli. Any discussions from council?
I just assume there's been lots of wholesome discussion with the firefighters, with the volunteers, and I know you've mentioned that, so.
Do you want me to speak to that a little bit? Yeah, I actually that was my first fire committee meeting, and it was good. I mean, the deputy chiefs were there, and as well as the chief. We worked hard to pull together a number of scenarios for us, so thank you for doing that. And worked it through. I think two accomplishments. First, I think we did it, we're setting the right level in terms of compared to our sister municipalities. And putting COLA on suggests that we're not going to get back into the same problem that we had that we were in just prior to this decision, because not having COLA means within 5 or 6 years, you've fallen behind again. So I think it's a good strategy. I'm really happy, and I felt that the deputy chiefs were quite satisfied with the decision.
Thank you. Councillor Bajelli.
Just a quick question, maybe the two of you can elaborate on, was there any opposition to the reduction of the monthly honorarium to the deputy chiefs? Or was there an understanding because of the reduction in tasks or the shifting of tasks that was actually warranted?
Yep, so I can elaborate on that. There was good discussion in relations with the deputy chief. In hindsight, what took place is when we had a deputy chief in place, which was one position that took care of there was a salary established to maintain, which was helping us with, he was by trade a training type officer, so there was great value. When we came into both position of the chief and deputy chief came into play, there was more work and related items that were needed to. So what we did is we took basically the salary of deputy chief, evened it out. So now, after all that being said, we implemented we appointed a new fire chief. In the meantime, everything came together, and I think that the work that's being done by our fire chief has minimized the work that was now needed to be done by deputy chief. So the 4 deputy chief were appointed, which helped us in the fact that they maintained their halls. And it actually works really well when you have a local guy looking after his team, reporting back to our fire chief. It just has a great, I think, great asset to the township. Now, we brought this level of their salary up by, we were way lower than what the norm across SDNG was. So I think it was just reflecting that we also have to look at we call them volunteer firefighters, but they're trained to the level of any firefighters across the province of Ontario. We get the benefit of paying them when they actually are fighting fires. They all have day jobs. So which minimizes the other side of the medal if we were to have full-time firefighters, which we could not sustain. So I believe that it was with great pride that we could at least bring them up. So we didn't surpass anybody. We just brought them up to, there's still some that are higher, but I think we've maintained, and the fire department is pleased with the direction that we took. And I think we can move forward on a positive note. So is that fair? And Nancy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that as far as you know
the cohesiveness that we're showing into the station becoming a department has been great. And I think some of the tasks have shifted in order to help answer the mayor. But the tasks have shifted a bit because some of the cohesiveness and everything else has grown. So they were all in favor of reducing their per diem on the premise that would continue. So we're very happy.
And to add, so they also still get their rate of hourly rate on top. So that's more the management part and honorariums. Perfect. So the motion is read, moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that the correspondence as listed as item 12.1 to 12.4 on the agenda be received. So out of the 4 points, any questions or discussion? Sorry, I should get that. Was moved, sorry, by Councillor Bajelli and seconded by Councillor Shane. Any discussion? Seeing none. I don't think there is anything outside of that. So that's all good. So any or all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 20-2023, being a bylaw to ratify and confirm council's action at its regular meeting of March 7, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 7th day of March 2023. Moved by Councilor Bajelli, seconded by Councilor Shane. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. And one more, be resolved that this meeting adjourns at 7:26 PM. Any discussions, comments? No, seeing none, all in favor? And we're done. Motion is carried. I'd like to thank Craig. I think it was, well, being the fact we're out of here, but yesterday was a long day with first draft of budget. And to be back here again tonight. So no, I appreciate all of council and everyone have a good night. Thank you very much for the people in the and the ones on Zoom. Good night.